Hello there, and welcome to this, our first edition of Top Gear. Now, if you happen to be a road user, and let's face it, who isn't these days, then I do hope you're going to find something of special interest to you in this new series. Now, tonight we're going to be taking a look at the way the police can trap the speeding motorist. We'll be following the progress of our own car on an economy run around Britain, and I'll be putting some questions to the Minister of Transport, William Rogers. But first, let's meet the girl in the news, Angela Rippon.
Well, usually when I leave the television centre at the end of a 3-day shift in London, I get to the main gates, turn right and head west for my home in Devon. But today we've turned left and we're heading up the M1. Well, I don't claim to be an expert driver or even a particularly good one, but I do spend an awful lot of my time driving. And I do cover an awful lot of miles. To give you some idea, I've had this car since new, from January the 2nd. We're now about halfway through April, and I've already got just under 12,000 miles on the clock, so it'll give you some idea of the sort of mileage that I do. And like most professional journalists, I think of myself as a semi-professional driver, because we do spend an awful lot of our working day in the car. In my case, when I drive up and down from my home in Devon to the studio in London, I'm in the car for about 4 hours before I start my day's work. And even as a junior reporter on newspapers, and when I first started working for the BBC as a reporter, I could spend 2 or 3 hours of the day in a car before I got to a story and had to do a day's work, and then another 2 hours driving back to the studio or back to the newspaper. Of course, being a woman driver, I'm very much aware of the fact that lady drivers, all lady drivers, are the subject of music hall jokes, have been for years. But, you know, really, if you think about it, there aren't men drivers and women drivers. There are people who drive cars. Some of those people are very good drivers. Some of them are very, very bad. And some of the bad drivers are men as well as women. I know that women do actually do silly things. I've seen them myself. They do what I'm doing now, in fact. They sit in a car and they natter to one another like this. And I can do that because I know that there's nothing behind me at the moment. Women also perhaps sit in their car wondering what they're going to give the family for dinner that evening. And so you're quite obviously aware of them not concentrating fully on what they're doing on the roads, which is silly and it can be dangerous. But I've never actually seen a woman driver do anything overtly dangerous. I've never seen a woman, for instance, cut another driver off purposely to stop them getting in front of her. I've never seen them lane dodging. I've never seen them using their cars on motorways like dodgems. So there are a lot of bad drivers. Some of them are women, but an awful lot of them are men. You've just had lunch with your 2 children. Can you give me some idea of how much that's cost you?
See, it was $3.49. 2 of us had sausages. He had a junior portion, which was nearly as big as mine, and she had a pie and chips and peas. It seemed very adequate.
That's cost you, what, £4? Do you think that's
Just
good value?
Yes, I do, really.
You think nothing of spending £4 then?
Well, we have to eat, and for convenience eating, this is very good. If you go out to a restaurant, you're paying more than that.
I come from Holland, from the south of Holland.
Now, the meal that you've had has cost you in this restaurant just over £2. How does that compare with what you would be prepared to pay in Holland?
Well, I think about twice as much in Holland.
So what do you think about the value you've got?
It's very good value, I think, yes.
Definitely, value is of course very good here. But that is of course always the case being from the continent, or at least from Holland or Germany with the pound so low, you know. But in general it is good value here in England, really.
I think they're very expensive compared to, you know, ordinary cafes and towns. But I think one's just got accustomed to this now, so one puts up with it.
Egg and chips and a cup of coffee, £1. That's not exactly cheap, is it?
No. Unfortunately, running a 24-hour service 365 days a year costs a great deal of money. We have enormous overheads. Apart from the price of food itself, we have to bring all our staff to work. There's no public transport to get to work with, so we have a coach bill of something like £40,000 a year. We have astronomical electricity charges. And it's the basic problem of running a 24-hour a day, 365 days a year service. It's very, very expensive. And I can assure you our profit margins are very small.
What about your petrol? I've just looked downstairs. You have 4-star petrol on sale here for 91p. In Birmingham, you can buy the same petrol for 83p.
Yes, unfortunately, I shouldn't think that the garage in Birmingham is open 24 hours a day. He's probably getting a discount from his supplier, and he certainly hasn't got to light a forecourt 365 days a year and all night, and which is a very expensive business, very expensive. And we just cannot afford, unfortunately, to cut the prices. We'd love to. We'd love to cut prices, because that would give us even more trade.
I'm a great believer in driving on mirrors. I've got 3 mirrors in this car because I think, especially on motorways, you need to be as aware of what's happening behind you as what's going on in the 3 lanes in front. So I've got a mirror over there on the left-hand wing, which tells me everything that's happening in the left-hand lane. The central mirror, the reversing mirror, which can show me a very clear picture of what's happening behind me. And again, a mirror here on the right-hand wing, which means that I really do have 365 degrees vision of everything that's happening all around me on the motorway. I think an awful lot of people don't use their mirrors enough. They don't bother to look in them to see what's happening behind. They pull out without realizing that someone's coming up very fast on the outside lane. I would like to see drivers using their mirrors far more. One of the things that annoys me more than anything else is that. I don't mean just being overtaken, but I used to drive a yellow sports car. Now, a woman driving a sports car is like a red rag to a bull to most drivers, and certainly to the police who are looking for speedsters. So I always drive at a steady 70. So I can't tell you how mad it makes me when I'm sitting in my car doing, as I am now, a steady 70, and I'm overtaken in the outside lane by a dark family saloon driven by a gentleman in his trilby with his hands gripping the wheels doing 90 down the outside lane. Just no justice in it.
Angela Rippon telling us what she thinks on her journey from the television centre in London up to Pebble Mill.